Okay, so I'm going to pass right over to my colleague, Jude Robinson, to introduce the next institutional briefing session.
Hello, everyone. So I'm Jude Robinson. I'm based here in the Arc, so welcome, and I'm glad people are enjoying this lovely building. I'm a social anthropologist by background. I lead global sustainable development for the university. And this session is going to start very soon with our first speaker, who is Grant Davidson, Head of Research, Strategy, Culture and Performance at Robert Gordon University.
Thanks very much. All right, Tom. God. Two-handed job. Any particular button? Oh, there we go. Oh, oh no. Right. Shall I go? There's just a little bit of a delay. There we go. So hi, everybody. Thanks for the invitation to speak. My name is Grant Davidson. I'm the Head of Research, Culture, Strategy and Performance at Robert Gordon University in Aberdeen. We're a post-92 university, so not necessarily research intensive, but certainly research active. What I'm going to do is just give a very brief overview of our where we've worked previously and on overseas development projects, and then I thought I was following the brief, and I'm going to talk about our SFC case studies that we received funding for recently. So this is a brief overview of the countries that RGU have worked in. I suppose this will be very similar to everyone else's maps if they put one up. RGU in the past has, because of its location in Aberdeen, is very much intrinsically linked to oil and gas and doing oil and gas research in the past. I suspect if I put a similar map up in 5 or so years' time, the countries where we have worked and will work will probably look a bit different to this. We'll certainly probably not be working in so much in Nigeria as we have in the past, certainly. When the request came in for this to give a talk, we'd actually literally just restructured our academic departments, our academic schools from 11 to 7. The astute amongst you will realize this isn't 7, this is 5. And it's partly because representatives from our art school, Grey School of Art, and our School of Architecture, or whilst they're maybe not represented on these particular projects, they are involved. One of the things I think I've found since joining RGU last year is the extent to which there is a great degree of interdisciplinarity and work across the schools. And so these are just some examples of projects that were from that map that are kind of linked to the schools, the new school structure. But for example, our augmented fashion project, which was run by the School of Computing in China, involved people from our School of Creative and Cultural Business and also our School of Art. And I'm going to talk a bit about one of our case study projects in Kenya, which involves scientists from a number of different schools, including our School of Architecture, which aren't represented here. So just very briefly to talk about our 3 projects that we funded from the recent funding that we received from SFC. I'm just going to talk about the 3 individual case studies in turn. This project span both financial years. It started last year and it's carrying on to this year. And I think one of the interesting things for me personally is this project is looking at geothermal cooling in Kenya. On campus in RGU in Aberdeen, we have had over the past number of years over 60 boreholes drilled on campus for geothermal heating. And one of our buildings, their main buildings on campus, is actually heated through geothermal heating. So for me, this is quite a nice reversal, if you like, in terms of using the same kind of technologies, but for doing something completely different in a context where heat stress amongst communities is going to get worse as climate change impacts take hold. So this project kicked off in March, and the team went out there to set things up, to put the sensors out, to get the participants involved. And they've put the sensors in place that's now monitoring data around soil temperature, air temperature, and the differentials between that. I'm not an engineer. My assumption is geothermal is a fairly basic technology. Basically, it's a transfer of hot and cold air, and the cooling effects of the lower temperatures of the equipment that's buried under the ground will help to cool the buildings. The team are going to go back next month to do some interviews with participants there to find out how things have gone, and do some sort of studies with the wider population around the communities where they're working. And then they'll go back again at the end of the year to do some final collection of sensor information. So I'm guessing if these slides are shared, you'll be able to see as a short clip where one of the participants from the School of Health Sciences is talking about the project for her students. And then on the back of this project, we've actually recently submitted a funding application to the Ayrton Fund for an extension of this project, both in Kenya and in Bangladesh. So hopefully, if that's successful, we'll be working on this much more in the future. So the second project, one of the issues, I suppose, around international development with the stopping of the GCRF funding a few years ago is that one of the issues, I suppose, in general is that maintaining those relationships with partners internationally. And this second case study project is an example where academics at RGU have had a long-running relationship with staff from the Informatics Institute of Technology in Sri Lanka. And part of the reason is that we validate their degree programs, and that relationship has kind of persisted now for about 15 or 16 years. So it's something that we've been able to kind of continue to build on. This is a project where my background is agriculture. It is definitely not anything to do with AI. So I've had to kind of spell it out for my own benefit. So for anyone who understands these things, the project is looking at case-based reasoning, retrieval augmented generation. I've got no idea what that means. It's to do with AI, large language models, and it's working with the legal department and looking at legal issues for Sri Lankans. And the project started late last year, finished in March, and they've actually, on the basis of that, they've produced a paper on the work that they've done already, and that's also available through that link if you wanted to click through that. And on the back of this SFC funding project, we also got funding from BT France to bring someone from IIT in Sri Lanka to RGU for 6 months. And they're going to do, I think someone mentioned earlier in one of the talks about, looking at the reversal process. They're coming to look at the Scottish legal system and using large language models to interrogate that, and whilst they're here. And our final project that is just about to start, this is based on previously funded GCRF projects in Kibera in Nairobi, and it's looking at social science responses to issues that local communities have raised in relation to issues about things like gender-based violence, youth entrepreneurship, and looking at creative approaches to where multiple issues coincide and overlap with each other. And this project will go back and work with those communities that we have previously worked with on GCRF projects to find out what came from those kind of best practice suggestions that were made in the previous funding project. And I've just been given the nod to slow down, so I'll stop there. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Grant. Before we move on to the next speaker, could I just invite the later speakers? We've got Jamie, Newbold, and Saleh to come up just to take spaces at the front, please. We're just keen to have everyone together for questioning at the end. So if you don't mind coming forward, thank you. And so sorry, Bernadette. So our next speaker is Dr. Bernadette Snow, who's Senior Lecturer of Marine Social Sciences at Scottish Association for Marine Sciences.
Hello, everyone. It seems like we're all looking very serious, and I'm thinking, like, let's lighten the mood a little bit. Anyway, so as mentioned, I'm from the Scottish Association of Marine Science, and hopefully my slides will work. And just a little bit of a caveat, I've only just recently started there, so I'm going to present as much as what I was able to learn, and also some of the things that I've had a personal interest or participation in. And when I get to some of those projects, there are other people in the room who can speak better about those particular projects, and I will point them out when we get there. So SAMS, as I'm going to shorten it for this particular presentation, has three sort of research themes or thrusts that SAMS undertakes its work. It also has an enterprise unit looking at innovation and enterprise and how this can then be upscaled. And there are two academies, a seaweed academy and a robotics academy, which also looks at capacity building and training in a variety of spaces and spheres around those particular topics. So ocean systems, we mainly look at large dynamic oceans, physical oceanography, biological oceanography, the big thinking stuff. The dynamic coasts includes looking at coastal systems, coastal impacts, climate change, resilience, and also society and the sea is included under that. And the blue economy looks at innovation and growing the blue economy in a sustainable way, particularly looking at offshore wind energy as well as aquaculture and multi-trophic aquaculture there. It's going to take its time. Okay, so we have the map. Everyone has the map. And you can see that SAMS has been working in a variety of spheres and spaces within the low, middle, and income countries. This is by no means all of them. The gray little icons on the map are those projects that have been proposed in Southeast Asia around aquaculture. But I'll go into some of the different case studies and the different projects now as we go forward. Okay. I'm so worried that red card's going to come up and the slide's not going. Right. So the first one that I'm going to talk about is called Global Seaweed Star. And this takes place in Malaysia, Tanzania, Indonesia, Philippines, Thailand, Peru, Madagascar, Bangladesh, and Colombia. This particular project has looked at seaweed management and biosecurity, particularly of local and endemic species of seaweed. It looks at seaweed resilience to climate change and also empowering seaweed farmers to have sovereignty over their own genetic resources, particularly around seaweed. It has led to contributions to an FAO Progressive Management Pathways for Aquaculture and Biosecurity document. And it has since also secured additional funding from different UK government, and from also these projects have led to Global Superstar, and now some of the projects that have been proposed to continue in Southeast Asia are to build on this particular project. And there is where the team is in Tanzania. The other project that I'm going to briefly just quickly look at and talk about is plastic litter. Pearl X sunk in Express Pearl, should I say, where it was located, and it was in India that they did the work, and the noodles that were released through the ship that sunk has major impact on society as well as the environment. And so they tracked the movement of the particular plastic and so that they could assess some of the impacts that it would have on economy, people, and environment. Right, I don't know if I skipped one, but anyway, let's carry on. Then we have the MyHabs project. This was working mainly with Malaysia and the university there. And this is looking at harmful algal bloom tracking. So in Malaysia, there is a particular increase in shellfish poisoning, as well as impact on seaweed fish farmers and shrimp farmers in the region. And there have been quite significant deaths from the shellfish poisoning in the area, and the fish kills that are happening. And so they have developed this app and this particular alert system collectively working with the seaweed farmers, so that these alerts and warnings can actually come out sooner, because the sampling time is too short. Right, One Ocean Hub. This is the one that I have a caveat around, and also would like to, because there are people in the room, so I don't know if Tracy and Pippin want to put up their hands, because they're from the University of Strathclyde, and that is where the One Ocean Hub is based. I'm only going to talk about some aspects of it. It is much bigger than what I'm presenting here. And the first part of the slide at the top is referring to a poster that Jez has provided, an early career researcher with the Hub, and just go to board number 3 out there for a little bit more detail and can tell you about that particular project. But also what has happened, so this is in Ghana, and I will go to some of the other areas, but it has been looking at climate change impacts, particularly on small-scale fisheries with resource overutilization, bringing in a trans and interdisciplinary approach, and looking at sustainability and how to integrate this in particular. Then further, again, carrying on with it in Namibia, and I've just broken it up. It's also focused on some of the small-scale fisheries, recreational fisheries, looking at building resilience around climate impacts, also looking at culture and the contribution of culture and how this impacts in management and within the region, within the area. Then Algoa Bay is in South Africa. This was also before SAMS. I've been involved in and continuing researches in Algoa Bay. One Ocean Hub has contributed a little bit to this, but this is a multi-funded project that is funded both by South African and UK government, as well as through Bellman Forum. So there are quite a lot of funders that are involved, as well as the Western Indian Ocean Marine Sciences Association. And this is taking a social ecological systems approach, looking at it from equity perspective, climate impacts, buildings, cities, resilient cities, which working closely with the municipality hand in hand to address the particular problems that are within Algoa Bay itself. Okay. I'm still doing great for time, it seems. Right, so carry on as we motor on. Then in the Western Indian Ocean more broadly, so many of the countries have been listed in the previous presentations, but this is looking at integrated ocean governance, and more recently is looking at integrating land-sea planning, so also urban planning, water planning, drainage systems, and how this then links up with marine spatial planning with a focus in Kenya, which is actually leading in developing the different guidelines for land-sea planning and integration of these different systems. It's also looking at ecosystem-based adaptation, nature-based solutions, working at building resilience, particularly around the marine and coastal environment, and also looking at regional impacts and regional strategies for integrated ocean governance. Before the red card came out, I could see it coming. Get the excitement. So SAMS does a lot more, and yes, you know, I've motored through it, but I think it's really important that these partnerships and collaborations with higher education institutions in these developing countries are really key. And I want to just pick up on what I managed to hear this morning when I come in terms of the partnerships and reversing the learning. There is so much learning and so much knowledge within the South that we mustn't always think it's a unidirectional flow. So I wanted to pick up on that, and I think it's a really important conversation. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you very much, Bernadette. That's great. Thank you. So our next speaker is Professor Jamie Newbold, Provost and Deputy Principal from the SRUC. Thank you.
Thank you very much, and thank you for the opportunity to give a brief presentation. I wanted to say a little bit about SRUC, its research, pick two of our international projects to talk about, and then hopefully, if I can avoid the red card, finish by talking about why this is important to us and why we think we should be doing it. So SRUC is somewhat different from many of the other organisations gathered here today, in that we operate in a single domain. We work in land-based industries. We are regionally dispersed over Scotland. We've got half a dozen campuses over the country, and we are a tertiary organisation offering from FE up to HE, but with a major research activity. That research reports into one unit of assessment in REF, and does very well there in combination with our partners in Edinburgh, and is coupled to a very strong knowledge exchange service. We run a consultancy service for agriculture and for veterinary surgeons in Scotland, which means we have on a daily basis contact with most of the practitioners in our subject area. The result of that is our research is fairly industrially focused. On a very rough basis, about a third of our income is coming from commercial sources. And we have ambitions, as I hope to talk about, to grow this on the international scale. In terms of subject areas, as I say, we are a single unit assessment organisation. Our challenges are largely around the nexus of how do you feed the planet in the background of climate change and the challenge of maintaining biodiversity. And our research focuses around those three areas. And we try, where possible, to use a data-driven approach to dealing with these subjects. And we have three domains around planetary health, science, society and business, and circular economy. As a result, our research outputs tend to focus around greenhouse gases, both inventory and ways to decrease greenhouse gases, emerging diseases, epidemiology, tools for increasing productivity through genetics and the use of genetics to stimulate productivity, animal welfare and behaviour, which increasingly is becoming more important on the international scene for us, soils and soil carbon, again focusing around the greenhouse gases, and of course production, agriculture in terms of food production. Like everybody, I have a map. About 80% of our outputs are produced in collaboration with international partners. So the majority of our research is already internationally based, and those partners are from around the globe. And that's what we're trying to build on and try and act on. We heard earlier about the Sustainable Development Goals, and given the subject area we work in, we feel we're quite strong in this, with major impacts around health and well-being, climate action, and zero hunger, with most of our projects mapping very strongly onto the SDGs. Stepping back there, maybe just picking a couple of the projects to try and give an example of the things we do. The first is a well-established project, which is in collaboration with colleagues at the Roslin in Edinburgh University and with the International Research Institute in Nairobi. This is funded by the Gates Foundation. We've been through one 5-year tranche of funding, and we're 2 years into the second tranche. And this is the Centre for Tropical Livestock Genetics and Health. And the idea is, can we unleash the power of data and genetics to improve productivity in sub-Saharan Africa? And we're focusing on two main areas. First, smallholder dairy farmers, but also the poultry industry. Doing that through a combination of data collection, with SRUC leading on trying to build up some of the genomic resources around African dairy activities, but also very heavy data troughs. So one of the projects that my colleagues are doing is we're engaged, working with colleagues in Kenya in trying to develop a digital twin of the dairy industry in Kenya in order to allow decision making in what is quite a difficult sector to make changes on. Other colleagues are involved in other aspects. I was doing so well, wasn't I? There we are. Sorry, I didn't mean to make you run. Maybe to take a more recent project, this is one that's really just started in the last year. We're a member of the UK CGIAR Centre, looking at agricultural development, kindly funded by FCGO, who are now lost, but in the room. And what we are trying to do is define new phenotypes of forage varieties based on how they are digested in the gut of ruminants, with a particular focus around greenhouse gases. The idea being that if we can work with our colleagues who are engaged in plant breeding in Ethiopia to identify accessions that produce less methane, then we'll be able to boost the productivity of African ruminant production while reducing the greenhouse gases. And this is, I think, a really good example of where colleagues in Ethiopia have got an enormous resource. They've been doing plant breeding for many years, and we're able to come in with a different skill set in terms of our knowledge of animals and the rumen and add that in. And I'm really hopeful that this project will make real gains. Finishing off then, maybe why we think this is important to us. Hopefully you'll have a chance to look at the video later, but I'm just going to give a very poor idiot's guide to what it says. We've worked for many years on genetic improvement in the UK dairy herd. We run the genetic evaluations for the UK dairy, and that has meant that yields in the UK herd have gone up year on year, and the environmental cost has gone down. However, every attempt to take dairy cows from the West into Africa has failed. They die. So we've now been partnering with colleagues in country through the African Dairy Genetic Gains Programme to look at how we can apply them. And essentially, on a really simple level, this is a dating app for cows. Okay, it is an app, and it allows local smallholders to look at their cow, to look at what they want, and to use the app to select the right semen for that cow. And then we colleagues have a system using duck bikes of getting that semen onto farm and into the cow, such that we can improve the genetic basis. Now, milk yield in smallholder African farms is relatively low. It's about a litre and a half. What we've now managed to achieve is a doubling of that milk yield to 3 litres. It's nothing like the 30 litres you get in the West, but it is still enough that those smallholder farmers are now being able to sell milk, and those sales of milk are what are allowing them to send their kids to school. And I think it's a real example of how you can take two different cultures and bring them together for benefit. Thank you.
Thank you very much, David. And so our next speaker is Saleh Seyedzadeh, Principal Data Scientist at the Data Hub.
Yes. Yeah. Hey everyone, I'm Saleh. I'm a Principal Data Scientist. I'm managing the data team for the Data Lab. I'm also leading the bigger data science team for Smart Manufacturing Data Hub. Yeah, the Data Lab is one of the Scotland's innovation centres funded by Scottish funding council investing in long-term infrastructure to create transformational and collaboration between universities, colleges, public and private sector. Okay. So at the Data Lab, our vision is to create the world's most impactful data and AI community. So we bring together people from different sectors to create new opportunities. This could be forming new partnership, helping small businesses to grow, or developing new training programs. And inclusion means making sure everyone has a chance to succeed through our events and also our online platform, the Data Lab community, which is now has more than 5,000 members from over 83 countries. So we achieve our goals through, as I mentioned, this community building to bring people together to share ideas and support each other. And also skill and talent to help people to learn new skills and grow their careers in data and AI. And also we have innovation support to provide support to business and organizations to help them innovate and use data and AI effectively. So our innovation pathway include innovation funding, offering early stage funding up to £20,000 to support collaboration between industry and academia to help developing initial ideas and also concepts. We also assist in securing external funding from different sources to ensure promising projects receive the financial backing they need to progress through the development stage. And for commercialization and exploitation, we provide strategic guidance, offer expertise and resources, enhance visibility and public relations, and also collaborate with key partners to maximize the support. Okay, and the main areas that the Data Lab is working is these areas. I'm not going through all of that. So I'll pass this. Okay, so who we support? We work with companies in all sizes. We collaborate with universities and colleges, with government and public organizations, and we support nonprofit and community organizations and provide support either one-to-one or as a consortium. And we engage in various stages of innovation, including feasibility studies, experimental development, industrial research, and translational applications for turning research into real-world applications. And over the past 4 years, we have involved in more than 120 applications and leverage a total of £120 million, showing the significant impact on this landscape. We're actually hosted by the University of Edinburgh, and when we apply for funding, we apply under this umbrella. Well, our primary goal is to attract economic and societal benefits to Scotland in two main ways: participation and facilitation. So for participation, we provide skilled data scientists, offer project management support, assist with business development to help in rolling out and growth of the programs. We offer also various training programs, including leadership courses, industry-specific data and AI courses, as well as self-paced and facilitated courses. So we also help to connect people with our extensive network, facilitating translational activities, and our marketing team promote the work and share successes. And the facilitation is through conducting workshops, business development, and project management. We also review and provide feedback on grant applications. And also we provide letters of support for the projects and also in initiatives. And we connect people with end users, customers, policymakers, and other key stakeholders. Okay, here is some of the transformational projects. We have been working at the Data Lab. These projects highlight how we are making a real difference in Scotland's economy and society through data and AI, and also collaborating with national and international organizations. So the first one is Smart Manufacturing Data Hub, one of the most significant projects. This is a 54 million initiative, involves 13 UK partners and includes 20 million grant and also 5 million innovation fund. And we aim to build a national data structure to support innovation and the adoption of the industry for practices in manufacturing sector. The hub focuses on SME-led solutions in various areas such as predictive maintenance, energy analytics, and quality control, and etc. So the challenges that manufacturers facing are that they need to quickly adapt to new technologies and market demands, and also increasing efficiency while maintaining quality is essential. And reducing cost without sacrificing performance also crucial. And navigating complex production process at global market is difficult. And we know that manufacturing is vital to Scotland's economy, contributing significantly to GDP. And in SMDH, we are collaborating with NMIS, SAMS, Scottish Enterprise, and Scottish Government to leverage existing resources. We have built a platform that can be accessed from everywhere, making it easy to manufacturers to use it. And we are establishing this platform to promote data innovations and maximize the industry for benefits, and helping the manufacturers to invest in new technologies with more confidence. And also we are facilitating the adoption of the cost-effective technologies that offer significant rewards. So another transformative projects that we are working is AI-supported image analysis in large bowel camera, and or simply ICE. This project is a digital health initiative funded by Horizon Europe and led by dynamic partnership of researchers and involving 2 innovation centers, 1 NHS health board, and 13 other European partners. ICE uses cutting-edge AI to enhance the patient pathway for camera capsule endoscopy, which is a small pill-shaped capsule. If you want to see, I just brought it here, and I have the poster there if you want to get more information about this project. So the capsule takes 50,000 images. The images are transferred securely to the patient file, and then an AI algorithm analyze the images and generated diagnostic report. And from this report, the health professionals are making a diagnostic and discussing the next steps with the patients. So there are some challenges that highlights the importance of this initiative. For example, in Scotland, colorectal cancer is the 3rd leading cause of cancer deaths after lung and prostate cancer. It affects 1 in 17 men and also 1 in 21 women. And only 55% of patients survive 5 years after diagnosis. And the prevalence of this disease significantly increases after age 40. So the ICE program is developing methods to identify patients who will benefit mostly from camera capsule endoscopy, and which is more efficient and cost efficient and also time efficient compared to traditional colonoscopy. This is an also excellent option for patients in remote regions, allowing them to undergo screening from the comfort of their houses. And it's significantly less invasive for patients compared to traditional procedures, and by enabling early diagnosis, we can achieve better patient outcomes. Thank you. Okay, so we are out of the time and we are finishing up, and we are open to questions, if anyone have a question.
Yes, we will be looking to questions at the end, so thank you very much for your presentation. Okay, so our final presenter is Marcia Vera Espinoza, who's Reader and Deputy Director of the Institute of Global Health and Development at Queen Margaret University.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Jude, and thank you so much to colleagues for being so generous to allow to change the place, because of course my train got cancelled, but I managed to make it. So thanks to all the speakers. So my name is Marcia Vera Espinoza. I'm Deputy Director of the Institute for Global Health and Development, and I'm here today with my colleague Karen Diacono. I cannot see Karen, but Karen is over there. Karen is a reader at IGHD, and she's also the research-led cluster in health. So we are available in case you have any questions. Let me tell you a little bit about Queen Margaret University. We are a modern post-92 university, but we have a long history of working alongside communities, not only locally in Edinburgh and in Musselburgh, but also globally. The IGHD, the Institute for Global Health and Development, is based within the School of Health, and along the areas of development and health that we work in, they also work in rehabilitation sciences. They also have a unit on health programming and practices, center person approach and practices. And of course, you know, we also work in, we offer a broadest range of health-based education programs in Scotland. IGHD, in particular, is both a teaching, a postgraduate teaching, and a research institution. In our case, we have 30 years of experience working on health and well-being in their broader challenges determinants, including situations of emergency, fragility, but also humanitarian settings across the world. Our work is applied, practice-oriented, and in partnership with communities and stakeholders. We are a very multidisciplinary team, I have to say. So we have public, and health professionals, we have epidemiologists, working alongside social scientists like myself, but I'm a geographer, and we have sociologists and also colleagues doing political economy. We have also, and I think this is important to say, a very healthy research culture. We have more than 50 graduate students as for last year. I think it's 53 PhD researchers now working in diverse areas of health and development. And I feel that I couldn't be in this, one more, this is just some of the funders or main funders of our work. Of course, all the UKRI councils, ESRC, MRC, HRC. We have as well GCRF funding in the past. We have received AMI funding, and of course, FCDO as well, among many others. But we also have received funding from some international organizations, such as the UNHCR, also the WHO, and other organizations such as World Vision as well. And this is what I want to say. I feel that I cannot be in this presentation without a map, so I'm really glad that we put one, otherwise I would feel like totally out of place. And this is just to emphasize that within our work, we of course have partnership with colleagues across Latin America, Africa, and Asia, but also in Europe and in North America, ranging from academic institutions, national governments and ministries, NGOs and civil society organizations and global organizations, because our work is strongly rooted and working with stakeholders, but also communities. And what I wanted to do today, really in particular, is to tell you a little bit about some of our areas of research excellence. And we want to focus in two that have been the characteristic of IGHD in its 30 years. One of them is in relation to health systems and health policy, and we have a range of projects. One of them is in relation to our contribution to conceptualize fragility, resilience, health system and strengthening, and interventions to respectively address, but also build some of these within health system across the world. We have a particular project. We are part of the Rebuild Consortium that is funded by FCDO, and that has run twice, and we collect both of the times. And it's the Rebuild Consortium. It's funded by FCDO, and is together with Liverpool, but also partners from Sierra Leone, and also colleagues in Lebanon, among any other countries. We also been part of the Reforming Global Health Initiative. We had a funding last year from the Global Health Initiative to contribute to this debate, and this was funded by Wellcome and also the government of Norway. This is a current project that we're doing that Karen and I are part of it, and this is about identifying good practices for integration of refugee populations in national health systems. We are doing this work across 6 countries that include Zambia, Mauritania, Peru, Pakistan, Iraq, and Kenya, and is funded by UNHCR. And we're quite excited. We are halfway through and it's funded in 2025. But at the same time, we have been developing appropriate policy and practice for health financing and human resources, especially in fragile and conflict-affected settings. And we work with UNRWA in a project between 2015-17 and 2021, including context-specific tailoring of performance-based financing. And our second area of research excellence that we want to share with you today is in relation to our work that we have done around psychosocial well-being integration and protection. And this is mainly the work that we have done in relation to refugee and integration. One of the things that IGHD is very well known by is our work that was commissioned originally by the Home Office in developing the indicators of integration. And this indicator of integration, which first version was in 2004, the second version was in 2019, really developed a holistic approach to integration and has been influential in the context of the UK, Scotland, but also has informed refugee integration policy globally and adopted and discussed in other contexts as well. Spanning from that body of work that maybe started in Scotland, but really, has been a way of informing back and forth, as you were saying, from south to north as well, not really north-south. We have been discussing now and zooming in particularly on the role of social connections in refugee integration. And we just finished a work that we have been doing in partnership with the Scottish Refugee Council, also with Workers' Education Association, with the Bridges Programme, with the British Red Cross and Bernardo's, really looking at the role of social connections, integrating communities, not only in areas that already have a tradition of receiving refugees, such as Edinburgh and Glasgow, but also new dispersal areas in rural Scotland as well, but also hopefully in other areas across the world. Related to that, we have been doing myself a lot of work in the context of Latin America. As you can see from this accent, I'm Chilean. So I've been working with colleagues across 7 countries in Latin America, including Chile, Argentina, Colombia, Ecuador, Mexico, Peru, and Uruguay. And we did a big piece of research in terms of the impacts of COVID-19 in migrant refugee population, particularly looking at the Venezuelan displaced population across the region, and to what extent they were included or excluded from the protection measures that the states were taking. In our team, our colleagues, we have a tradition as well of working closely with communities, and we have done a lot of work in how we can develop phase-sensitive approaches to mental health and psychosocial support in humanitarian settings, particularly working with people on the move. And this is a work done carried on now by our colleagues, Kathleen Rutledge, Yassine Duman, and others on the team. These are not the only areas, so this is just an example, not limited to it, but some examples of major projects, just in case you want to see the logos, so you want to Google them later on. Some of these are past, some of them are present, and our contributions to some of these. And one of the things that we really want to focus in this presentation, we just wanted to give you a glimpse of the work that we do, but we wanted to take the opportunity to welcome collaborations. We know the amount of expertise that there's in the room. You know that we work across health systems and refugee integration. If this is our areas that you are interested as well, please come to talk to me or Karen. More recently, we have got some grants from FCDO and also from UKRI to expand our work in relation to health systems and displacement, but in relation to climate change. So that will become hopefully not yet an area of excellence, but hopefully a future area of expertise. And just to finalize, let you know that these are our email addresses. We will be here throughout the day. So if you wanna have a chat, if you want more details about these projects, or if you just wanna say hello, come to say hello to me and Karen. Thank you so much.
Well, a big thank you to all of our speakers. We've had the most amazing whistle-stop tour of everyone's portfolio. I'm sure there's so much more you could have told us, but thank you very much for all of your contributions. So we now have time for questions. And I'd like to invite questions from the floor. Have all of our speakers up at the front here, including Jamie. Is there anything anyone would like to ask? Well, I'm going to ask a question then. So this is about ambition and impact. These are things that I think everyone has been demonstrating. The ambition here for Scottish universities, and they are excelling. What are the areas of ambition, though, that you haven't yet realised? just a challenge to the panel. Is there anything you could briefly just comment on, or perhaps ambitions in impact that you have not yet been able to realise? Who would like to start on that?
To take the question a little wider, what we find is it takes a long time to build up the networks, to build up the relationships, particularly because we are very dependent on in-country data collection. And that's what limits us. It's the time taken. Once you've got a relationship, actually getting the funding is okay. But getting the funding to set up those initial relationships is often the challenge.
Just in support of that, I think often reaching that ambition of the impact, it takes a lot of time and it's quite a delayed process, and there's things that could happen in between, and often project by project base doesn't allow that to happen. So looking at opportunities possibly to achieve some of the ambition, maybe it's a challenge to everyone here and those who may not be in the room, but is how could we network and collaboratively work together beyond our little spaces, like bringing in our climate change work, bringing in our health work, our well-being work, looking at innovation around production, etc., and what more we're going to hear. And I think the challenge is around then how can we build on those particular connections and learning and trust that you have to build with particularly place-based research and with communities. I think is a challenge I would like to put out there, because then we could actually achieve a lot more.
Thank you. I agree with the colleagues. I think there's the time to build these relationships, and we need the time, we need the funding to do so. But also I think a constant challenge from the UK is to think more creatively in our outputs, and the need that the outputs need to be translated in the language of the partners that we work with. So including that funding is essential. There's no point for us just to publish in, gatekeeper publications that nobody's going to read, particularly if they're not the language of the people that we really want to do the impact on. So I think that's something we can work as a challenge and do it better.
I guess just also adding to everything everyone else has said, in that I think one of the biggest challenges at the moment is the requirements for increasing governance over international work. Trusted research is becoming a massive issue now. It makes working with international partners much more difficult. And I think, and I've worked in international development for over 20 years, and I've seen a massive shift in the change that makes it feel as though more and more hurdles are being put in place to work more collaboratively, and that just creates, from my perspective, it creates more problems in trying to develop those long-term and trusted relationships, where as organizations in the UK trying to work with organizations overseas, where the implications of all of this kind of oversight makes it much more difficult for organizations to want to work with us in the UK.
I do agree with colleagues, and I can add that what I feel is that this is a great initiative. Actually, I was really happy to seeing this is happening. I believe just working together, innovation centers, research centers, and the universities is a key factor for success, and especially reaching to international goals, and also the work in an international scale. I believe one of the things that like the Scottish government can do is that building a platform for connecting all these centers and innovation centers and also research groups together, finding and about each other. So this is really good for me to understand, for example, what other people are doing in an international level, and I can go back to them and talk about the collaboration. I believe this could be accelerated using like other means like online platform or something.
No, that's really helpful. And actually, all of the points that you've raised around time, about networks, about resources needed to achieve impact. And I think particularly, the connections that we need to make, but also the trust we need to have in place, I think will probably resonate well across the room. And to correct an earlier error that I made, I co-lead Global Sustainable Development with my colleague Mia Perry, who's very much invested in partnerships and creating ethical networks, as many of you are. So I think there's a lot of knowledge in the room, a lot of understanding, and I'm hoping those conversations continue. We have time for further questions. So if there's anyone out there who's got a burning question. Or do people just want lunch, which is very understandable, and I'm sure you've got a lot of people to catch up with. So I think I'll just conclude then by thanking all of the panel. Thank you so much for your contributions, and to Booney for keeping time. Thank you. And to invite you to convene for lunch, and we'll see you after the break.